I love antique quilts. There's lots of things I love about them. One of the things that I really like is that they are not perfect. For the most part, the piecing is hand done. Some of it's really good, but some of it isn't as good. And so I don't mind that at all because I'm not a perfectionist. The other thing I like is that those quilts were saved for me all these years so that I could put my art on those quilts. And today we're going to be starting a quilt that you're going to absolutely love. I decided it's a fan quilt. It's an antique fan quilt. Here's a picture of it unquilted. And you can see that there's, I could actually put the same design in each square, but I'm not going to. I'm going to make sure that I have a different design in each square. And this will give you a lot of different ideas for your meandering techniques. When I started this quilt, the first thing I had to do was stabilize the entire quilt. So I want to show you what I found so I could do this continually in the most time-saving fashion so that you can do the same. To stabilize a quilt with squares, you can do it more quickly if instead of just stitching across here and then coming back and stitching down in between the squares before you roll, if you will start like I did over here and then stitch up and then across and down and over and up. Go all the way across the row and then on the next row down, come over, up, that's where you catch, that seam right there, down, over, and up. That way you can do it row by row and you get the job done more quickly. The next thing I want to do is stabilize the fan, and I love these yellow centers, and I want to make sure that they're pretty much alike. The fan, I don't want to ruin any of these fabrics. These are gorgeous pastel antique fabrics. So I want them to kind of poof up, and then I'll do my fancy work up on this area where I'm going to do the meandering. So these didn't take me very long to do. I'm going to do two of them very quickly for you. I start with a teardrop in here, like that, and then come in and do a curl, and a curl, and then I follow this seam up and just very carefully follow this line across here. Come all the way down to that seam because that has to be stabilized in there. And then I'm doing a serpentine line in between each of these little fan areas, and that is just simply back and forth like that. Follow my seam over there, back and forth like that. Follow this line across here. That will get stitched over again, and over here, and I did do this side as well, and then simply follow that line around. You could use your applique helper there if you felt like you needed to, and then you see I can just follow this line right over and start right into another one. There's my curl. Follow this stitch in the ditch right straight up. Follow this all the way over. It's really important to tack that down, and then again the serpentine line. You can see how fast that goes, and you just go all the way across the rows like this. In fact, it's a really good idea to just time yourself. See how long it takes you to do one, and then you'll know how long it will take you to do the entire row. And of course, you need a little reward down there when you get through with each row. You could have an M&M, maybe one M&M. All right, that was 2 blocks, just that quickly, and then I would be ready to go right into the next block. We're going to start with a couple of simple things that you've probably done before. The first one I'm just going to echo. I'm not going to do a lot of heavy quilting on this quilt, so these are not going to be really close together. What I am doing is making sure that when I come into that valley right there, that I come in plenty deep. And this is an easy one because I go off the quilt there. When you get over to the side, you just bounce back and keep going. When you're off the quilt like that, you can just go off the edge of the quilt. And you can follow the sides up where you've already stitched in the ditch, like right there. And you could time those, because I know it took about a minute to stabilize the fan. So if there's 9 blocks across, that was, well, let's say less than 10 minutes to do the fan across, and then probably less than a minute to do your design in here. So then you know that you've maybe only got 3 hours into the quilt. It's wonderful. Now we're ready to go right over into the next one. And this one is just a geometric or straight lines here. On this one, I'm making sure that I don't cross any lines. So I'm not getting any triangles or squares, but you want to make sure that when you go into the point that you stay there long enough. I'm in constant speed, I'm not in regulated, so it might be a little different on regulated, but I make sure that I make a point. If you don't make that point and you round it off, it doesn't quite look the same. This next square, I do want to come from the corner. I'm just making one reference line because I want to keep everything perpendicular to the top of the fan. And it's real easy. It's just basically the figure 8 as I come down and go up like this, but I'm keeping it perpendicular to the top of the fan so it will slightly turn. You know, and I do need to remember that I'm at the top of that quilt and stay at least a 1/4 inch away from the top of the quilt. I have a real problem with that, and most of the time I have to put a piece of tape there to remind me to do that. Otherwise, I just quilt right on and off that quilt. And that becomes a problem when you bind it. Again, I'm in constant speed, so I'm just moving the machine as evenly as I can. Now this is going to end me down here in this corner, right there, and I will just take my ruler and make sure that I stay in the ditch and get right back up here so that I can start the next design. This next design feels a little weird when you're doing it because you do 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if it feels weird when you're doing it, then you know you're doing it right. And there's really no rhyme or reason. It's just kind of half circles off from each other like that. What you are creating here is texture, because you're planting a lot of thread down. So that's going to really make an indentation into the quilt. I love the texture on this, and I'll tell you where I use this the most often is for ground, for sky, and on the roofs of houses that I do. It makes the neatest texture because of the negative spaces that you've created, which are simply the areas that are not quilted. Now what I want to do is get myself down to this area, go down to the bottom of this fan, and then I can work my way back up because I really want to be back in that area where I need to be, and I won't have to stitch in the ditch again. I think you'll enjoy this a lot and probably find a lot of areas that you can use it on. Write and tell me or email me on some of the areas that maybe you've used this on. It's just so cool. See, now I can go right over here and I'm ready to go into my next block. This next block, I am going to do some loop meandering, but in with that loop meandering, I'm going to do a leaf shape like that, and then I'm going to feather inside of that leaf. You see how I go up to the top, back, and so those become kissing feathers there at the top. This is just a long arm feather, and then back, and we'll put loops all around that. Like that. I'll get back over here so I can continue down around the fan. Back up to the top, kiss with that top feather, and then back, and back into the loops. I'm just trying to be consistent, making the loops about the same size. This would be another good place for a leaf. And those feathers inside the leaf. You can see on this antique quilt that there are areas on the quilt that have a little extra fullness that of course we never get today, but it doesn't make any difference. We are going to make this quilt look fantastic. Loops in between there, and one more leaf. You know, your leaf shapes don't have to be perfect either, so don't worry about those. If you feel like you needed to draw your leaf shapes on, you could certainly do that. And I'm going to fill this in with some loops just to make sure that they're even, and I'm ready to start on the next block. This next meandering is what I call echo stipple. I also think that it's quite stressless because you just do very smooth lines. You can come off of that. They're almost like little worms, and then you echo. See how I can just come around there like that? And again, I am not doing tiny quilting on this quilt on purpose. I don't think everything has to have itty-bitty quilting on it. And to keep it balanced. You see how smooth that is? You don't have to make all those little turns that you normally do with your stippling. Come around. You can also make some interesting things, like if you wanted to make a pinwheel somewhere, that would be perfectly fine. Maybe we'll do another one right here, just to have, so we have a couple on here. There we go, and we're ready to go into the next. In this next area, we're going to do some fern spins. So I come around like that, and then come all the way around, and come back with some very pointy, like fern designs. So each time you want to do one, you go into a pinwheel, and then come back around it like that. It makes a really cool meandering design. And of course you could do all of these very tiny. And I'm just going to echo in this part here where I need to fill in. We'll come all the way around so that we fill in all the way down to the bottom of the fan first. Into the pinwheel. These can reach out to whatever area you need too. So I might want to reach, I'm just leaving enough space over there for myself to get out. Come around like this. Fill in this area. And then I can just kind of come around like that. Very fun to do. And easy to fill in the spaces. This one can just reach out and fill in all the space I need. And that puts me into the next square. This one I decided to do a feathered rose, so I'm just following that over. I'm coming into this like that, and then I'm starting to put feathers on here, and you see how they're laying down in this direction? Lay it down like that, lay it down. Now right here where I'm crossing where I came in, I will start echoing, and I go way in when I echo, way into that point, way into that point. And I'm going to echo one more time. We'll make this a nice big rose. Like that. And this time, into these corners, I'm coming over here with a beautiful little leaf, and we'll just come in here like this and put some stems in this leaf. That makes a good contrast to the rose as well. And then echo, and of course in this corner, over, put the leaf in, and put some stem, spiky little stem things in that leaf. That, continue to echo, echo, and that puts me right over into the next square. Now you see you could have done that in each one of these. Each of these you could do for the entire quilt, but we're doing every single one different. In this square I am going to do these stars, but I'm not doing loops with them. I'm just doing stars. So I go from one to the next. I'll make them a little different sizes depending on how much I need to fill in. And I'm coming right straight down, and I can come over here and just follow that over a little bit like that to get into the next star. In fact, it's a really good idea to outline that again. This way I'll have stars all around, and then I can fill in the rest of the area. Put a little star right there. We need to do some little ones. Yes, I know, I have to remember that that 1/4 inch is there. What I have to be careful when I'm doing this is to remember how to do that star. Sometimes I get confused. This would be a great sky, night sky. And we'll plant one more over here. And we're done. This square is a variation of the peacock meandering. So let's just talk about peacock meandering. You generally just do a teardrop, and then you echo it once, and you echo it again. But on this one, you can see I'm doing a circle, and I call that a finger feather. Now, if I want to stay close to this all the way down, then I first of all come in this direction. 2, 3. But if I want to change direction, which I think is oftentimes a good idea, although this is starting to kind of form a pattern, I better stay that way. If I wanted to change direction, then I would head a different direction on the first one. But this one, I think I better stay with what I've got going here, because after 4 of them, it looks like I kind of formed a pattern there. And I like that. I like the pattern. Not what I had planned, but hey, that happens to us all the time, doesn't it? And usually it's better. Now, I did 3 echoes there, but I really need to do another echo to get out of it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And if some of you have done peacock meandering before, then you know you really can't get cornered if you just pay attention to which direction you're going. And you can echo more than 3 times, or sometimes you only get 2 in. So we'll do that one, and then I'm going to come up here, follow that stitch in the ditch down, and this row will go this way. So every other row is heading a different direction. Which, like I say, I didn't plan, but it's kind of pretty. Good job. That one's going to get 4 echoes, and I'm going to follow this up, and we'll just probably get one more here, and that puts us right in position to do the next square. This one's going to be very fun. I'm just doing a wavy line, and I'm coming over to the seam, following it down a little bit, and echoing what I did up above. Follow that down so I get about the same spacing, and then continue down the seam, over, follow that over, down, follow that down, and over. Now I'm coming over here, and I'm just doing a wavy line the other direction, keeping my spacing about the same, and following that wave that I did before. It's kind of a cross-hatching with wavy lines, and it goes so fast. There we go, and I'll follow that stitch in the ditch to get myself back over here so I'm ready to do the next square. Isn't that cool? In this one, I decided I'm going to do those pebbles. I'm doing them with one hand, and I hope that I can be fairly accurate. Generally, when I do pebbles, I'll do 2 at a time. Like this and this. That one's only going to get a 1. Come over here, come back over here. But you know you can go around those pebbles as many times as you need to get into an area that you need to be in. Let's come over here and do a couple little ones. And I'm doing this again in constant so that I can go a little bit faster. But for the most part, I would think in regulated would give you a little bit more advantage to slow down a little bit and make sure that you were somewhat more accurate when you go back around those circles. I'm also doing it one-handed. There we go. On this one, I've decided I'm going to do some feathers. I know some of you are waiting for these traditional feathers. I'm not reaching clear out to the other side, but in the middle, which is right now, I'm going to do a heart. And that changed the direction of these feathers. These are just long arm feathers. Reach all the way over there like that. Maybe put in a little one like that. Now I'm going to echo, and I'm going to leave enough room in this echoing. Well, first of all, I'm putting a teardrop in there, and I'm putting some curls on top. That's just happened. My machine is doing this. Leaving enough room in that echo because I want to come back with some little swirls. Again, probably if you know the regulated mode, it's going to be better for little swirls, or slow down a little bit. Come back over here, we'll do the same thing. These are just sort of little swirls. They are not circles, they're swirls. That's going to separate this from the echoing that I'm going to do. Because if I just echoed all the way out on this, it would lose its shape. I'm just going to echo the rest of this all the way over. And of course you could do that in each block. It'd be really pretty. Some of this will start filling in, like right there. I don't have to go back there. Last time in that area. And there we go. Very pretty. On this one, I am going to do, on the top of each of these fan areas, a half a circle, like this, fairly large. Then, as I come back, I'm going to put a couple of little ferns in there, like this, and echo it on the inside. Now when we do these, if we come back up here like this, and we jump in the middle of each of those half circles that we did before, and come back and do the same thing. Put the little fern in and then echo. Fern and echo. Giving it nice texture. It's easy to do. And then I'll come over here, half circle, half circle. You could draw those half circles on if you were worried. About the shape of them. But I like the freehand look. And up to the last one. And there we go. In the next square, I just want to give myself some reference lines. And again, we're doing this quite large, so we don't have to worry too much. But I do want to have some lines because I want some definition on this. Like that. I don't even know if you can see them, but I can just barely see them. And what I'm going to do is pattern meandering. This direction, and then this direction. It's a ribbon candy. So now I do the opposite of what I did above. I love the way that this changes the texture of the fabric. It really makes it, gives it a checkerboard effect. And I can just follow this down like that to get into the next area. And the final area down here. And I will follow this line up to the next square. In this square, you can see I'm just making a line like this. This is going to just be a feather all the way through, like this. And I will come off with a feather branch. Finish the area that's closest to the feather first, and then you see it comes right back into that little branch. And I can come off with another one anytime. Fill in this area closest to the feather first. and then come out again. And as I fill in this area, it will come right back into the feather. And then I'm back on the main feather branch. I love doing these because you can just put them anywhere. You can do it really tiny, and you come right back to your home there. This is my double stem here of the main feather. Circle and then back to the stem, round and follow, kind of teardrop shapes. I want to come out with a stem here. I can do that and fill in next to the feather first, then come out and fill out on the other area. You see how I curve around on that stem? Come right back in, and I could fill clear over here like that, and then just fill it in all the way back to the home. I think I will come out here again with another little branch, fill in close to the stem, and then the other side. You can hear when I go over and hit those seams. And I would just stitch in a ditch like this, get myself back over in position. I'm doing a puzzle in this area, and I marked it off a little bit. It's really hard to see. I can hardly see it. Just some reference lines with a grid. And I'll tell you, puzzles are not hard to do. I just copy what I did up above. I don't even try to get creative, because I get confused when that happens. I'll just follow the edge of the fan over here like that. And you can see I'm just doing all of these the same. I just copy what I have up above from what I did. You can do these really tiny. You can do them dimensionally. It's just very cool to do these puzzles. Come down here. Follow the fan over, and there's just one right there. And I will put one right here. Now as I come up this side, I will do the opposite. You see already how it's starting to turn out to be a cute puzzle. And as I come up here, I will follow what I did there, come down, and now I'm just following what I did on my other line. I think I'll come down here and do one there. Follow this around. Look how fast I did this puzzle. And up and back over to where I need to be. In this square, we're going to do that geometric design like we started, but this time I am crossing lines, and it really gives it quite a different look. We could even do whatever shape we want. Maybe we want to do, depending on what fabric is in the quilt, you can look at and see. You can match hexagons or squares, kites, diamond shapes. We'll just speed that up a little bit. There we go. So we get fun triangles. Well, I am very pleased with the way that this quilt is turning out. I'm excited that I decided to do each one of them differently. And you'll be able to see the rest of the blocks on season 5. So see you there.